And we are live. We are live on Facebook. I'm using this platform for the very first time. I'm Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing. This is Eric Mulford, and he's going to be talking to us about an amazing platform that is called Designrr. And what Designrr does is help us to repurpose our content. And so many people that are writing books and maybe creating courses and doing all of this stuff have so much information and so many platforms. So Eric, let me read your bio and introduce everybody to who you are and what you do. Eric has a 25-year career in sales training, combined with a 10 years of teaching experience. He's leveraged that proficiency in e-learning platforms and writing training programs. The simplicity of his methods caught the attention of a major insurance carrier who asked him to begin documenting what he was doing. Shortly after that, he was asked to work from the home office as a senior sales trainer, where the duties included developing training programs and new product positioning. It gave him a background that has created opportunities to work with carriers to develop products, create and implement training programs, and speak to thousands of professionals across the U.S. Awesome. He has an education in communication with a focus on education and behavioral psychology. And today he's still working as a trainer, but now with the focus on authors, content creators, and software products. So welcome, Eric, and happy and delighted to have you here.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
So let's talk about this amazing platform called Designrr and what it can do and how it can help authors, content creators, people that are, when I work with authors, the first questions are what's the big picture? Big picture in the sense of it isn't just a book. A book is a marvelous tool for business growth, but are you going to offer a course? Once you've got people that are actually picking up your book, they like what you're saying. How do they work with you, and what other things do you have to offer?
The interesting thing about a book is that the book it contains everything the author has to give you at that moment in time. But maybe I have a question. And the problem with the book is that it's a one-way communication.
Right.
And so courses, and that's the reason why I moved to the e-learning platforms. Courses give me the opportunity to be able to have a two-way communication. And so supplementing your book with courses can be one of the most advantageous things that you can do. I realized after 25 years of running up and down the road continuously and flying from one city to the next and doing training seminars literally all over the United States, 47 states I've done training seminars in. I've trained more than 10,000 agents on sales training, product positioning, those kinds of things. And so what I discovered was that there needs to be follow-up. There needs to be something that happens following that. It's really cool that they sat in the room, they all nodded their head, they all did the cool thing, they all gave me a high five, they all said that was the greatest thing they'd ever heard. But what had to happen next was there had to be a follow-up system in place. So that's when I made the decision. I was going to start investigating this whole e-learning platform. It was brand new at the time. This was almost 20 years ago now, that you could actually create a course that would follow up the training that you had provided. Whether that training is in a book or if it is training that is simply provided in person, which was the way I was doing the vast majority of that, have a follow-up means onto that. So that started me on this journey with Designrr. Everything has a reason for becoming me. I started with this. I was looking for a way to take the content because I had literally thousands and thousands of pages of stuff that I had written, experiences that I had, examples. I had tons and tons of examples that I had done. What do you do in a sales situation if it's a face-to-face sales situation and you show up late? What do you do? How do you handle that situation? So I had all kinds of examples of that from actually being in the field and working with agents. So what are we going to do when we encounter this kind of a situation? And I began to document every one of those things. Well, now what am I going to do with this? Okay, I'm not going to travel anymore. I've had my fill of airports. I've stayed in too many hotels. At one point in time, I had spent more nights in a hotel by 3 times more nights in a hotel than I'd spent in my own house.
And that's tough on a family too.
It's insane. You can't do that forever. So when I decided to pull the plug on that, then you got to fill in with something. Okay. Now you've got to figure out what are you going to do next. And so I stumbled on this platform called Designrr, which is part of another program that is available from the same people called Kudani. That's a topic for another day. And
I would like to learn about it.
But Designrr would allow me to be able to take the content that I had written and put it in an ebook format so that I could provide that as a lead magnet. I could provide it as a way to supplement a course. I could provide it as 14 pages of something that you're going to get 140 pages out of. Or I could give an abbreviated version. One of the first books that I did was a book called 7.5 Habits of Highly Effective Networkers, because I got dragged to every networking meeting that you could imagine. Mm-hmm. And I would see people make the dumbest mistakes in network meetings. So I decided to take the concepts created by Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and applied that to networking. And so we rewrote the entire structure, we recreated the entire thing, and created 7.5 Highly Effective Network. That book was about 78 pages, which is just a little bit too long. It's great to be able to do it as a book, but it's a little bit too long to be able to give somebody and say, this is the reason why you need to read this. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I created 5 versions of it. And I could do that with Designrr instantly. I could just create, it was easy for me to, in a half a day, to kick out 5 versions of that. One that was 9 pages, one that was 24 pages. And I could just simply trim that content. And then I had it available and it ended up being 3 different ebooks.
That's really valuable to have, because oftentimes, even when we're speaking at a network and we have that 10-minute presentation or whatever, that's great content to be able to slim the information down, that it's in kind of chunk-sized pieces that somebody can assimilate and not be in too much overwhelm.
I introduced myself, tell them who I am. I'm at a networking meeting. I get my little opportunity to make my little elevator speech. And then I say, and for everybody in the room, I have a copy of this by ebook if you want it, and it's right here. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, you've got people that you've got their attention. It's kind of, when we had the conversation the other day, it's about taking a hardbound book and making it available. You can do exactly the same thing. It gives people an opportunity, pardon the phrase, but it gives them an opportunity to test drive.
Right. To make sure what they're,
who you are, the value that you bring, how your writing style, those kinds of things.
So I've used Designrr several times, but I'm kind of slow with it because I don't quite get to the flow of it and everything. So I understand that you can take a video and it will transform the video and the audio, and then it creates even flip books.
We have several versions of the product. One the premium version will allow you to be able to transcribe audio and video content and create text content out of that. That text content you can use for a variety of things. You can put it in an ebook. You can put it on your website. I actually even have a training program where I show people that the most popular YouTube videos on YouTube are ones that have a lengthy description. And so I can take a portion of that content and drop it in the description of my YouTube video, and it causes it to go up in popularity because search engines find more content available there. So yes, we have that. The second thing is that you mentioned the flip book. I'm not a big fan of flip books, and I'll tell you the reason why. This is a totally personal thing. You can't read a flip book on it.
Right. You cannot read one that way.
And the vast majority of people are looking at content here, and they're not looking at it like this. So I try to write for the experience of the user. Now, there is something that you can do, and Designrr has a version that allows you to be able to do this. And that is the very first book I ever published was an EPUB. Mm-hmm. And EPUB is still to this day the most popular ebook format. And you've got an EPUB reader on everything.
Right. You
And
certainly
so
can.
I can easily do an EPUB. I get exactly the same benefit, except I'm reading in a dynamic fashion rather than a static fashion. If I create a PDF file and open, which all a flipbook is a way to open a PDF file.
Right.
If I create a PDF file and I open it up in a flipbook, it's now going to be too small for me to see on this device
Mm-hmm.
because I've got two full-size pages laying side by side. Doesn't make any sense. But an EPUB doesn't do that, and it's dynamic. I can make the print larger or smaller.
Well, yeah, because you can, when you publish on, like, for instance, Amazon and use an EPUB for the Kindle version, it can be read on any device, doesn't matter where it goes.
Right.
It's really, really cool that way.
And that's really what you want to do. The hardest thing to do is to get people, but they see a flip book and they think, oh, that's the sexiest thing I've ever seen. And it's really not. Really, the coolest thing ever was an EPUB. Still is to this day. It gives you the same flip effect, but you're being able to read the entire screen. And reading the whole screen is so important. But people need to learn to write for the device that it's going to be read on.
Right. It's a whole different process, simply because it isn't with a regular print book. It's not laid out that way. It's totally different from that.
Right.
Yeah. So what other thing, are you able to share your screen at all? Or is that a good time for this, where you can show what Designrr is, what it looks like?
You've kind of caught me off guard for that.
I'm sorry.
Well, in my head, because I just closed everything.
Yeah, I understand that, because I did too, because I had too many things open this morning.
Yeah, and the internet's experience being drained badly right now. So I'm looking to see.
Well, that's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. I think one of the biggest things that I think I want to put across in this conversation is that the value of repurposing the content, because many of us, we speak from stages. These things that we do, webinars, we do, podcasts, we do all these other things, and that's valuable information. And there's times when you say, "Oh man, that is just incredible information. I could turn it into a book," but we don't, because we don't have the time, or we think we don't have the time. And this is where Designrr is such a valuable asset. And when I'm working with my authors, that oftentimes we talk about how can you repurpose the content that you have already, not only to get the book written in the first place, but also for the training courses that they can offer on their upsells. Yeah,
I'm a huge advocate of training courses. Interestingly enough, somewhere along the way, and you saw me use this book, Guerrilla Marketing, in the last conversation that we used. Somewhere along the way, Jay Levinson made the comment that there are 53 different ways to repurpose your content.
That's a lot.
Let that one soak in for a moment. Obviously, some of those things have changed since his day. We no longer do cassette tapes. So there's a little bit of a change that's taken place by that. But the average person, this is amazing to me, the average person, authors need to understand this, will purchase 3 different versions of exactly the same content.
That's interesting.
Now, proof. I have, it's not here on my desk, but I have a book that I bought just about 6 months ago. I have the Kindle version, I have the audio version, and I have the hard.
Right. You're right.
3 different, and that took that $16 book, and I now have $42 invested in it.
That's right. And many people will do that one of the, it's so important, because when you realize that you can repurpose your content, and you have not only the Kindle version, the print version, the audio, but you can also break those into social media pieces and blogs, and you just spread it even further, and then it's content for your courses. So everything is right there. And I think a lot of us spend way too much time trying to put all those pieces together, and we think we have to rewrite everything.
As if we have to rewrite everything.
Yes. And we don't have the time to. So what happens is that valuable expertise that we're want to share with the world, it doesn't ever get put out because we are busy people. We're running businesses. We have families to take care of. We have what we're facing in our world today. We have a lot of things that are going on. But if we use our time wisely and use the tools that are out there, and that's the whole purpose of this conversation, is to show that there are incredible tools out there for us to use and to implement, to where we're really making real super good use of our time,
right,
and being able to serve in better ways. It gives us much better exposure.
Well, my leverage for everything became this, and that is that my content becomes my contribution to the world. So no longer does it get shuffled to the bottom of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
I got more important things to do. I've got to clean the house. I got whatever that excuse becomes. I remember that I'm making I'm not just doing this. I'm making a contribution to the world.
Right.
And that now my content has a whole new priority. But I realized I had this huge, vast amount of content that I had created as a sales trainer, many of which was just simply outlines that were done on PowerPoint presentations with all of this other stuff that was behind it. But I could tell you word for word exactly what was behind it. So when transcription tools first became available, I started transcribing all of that. So I had tons of that stuff in Google Docs. Right. So I paid a teaching school. I paid her to go through all of my PowerPoint presentations and extract all the text from that and drop it in Google Docs, and then take and merge that with the content that I had transcribed. And now all of that stuff was now available. And so it was really easy for me to take that and then massage it into ways and make it work in ways I thought would be valuable to the world.
Right. Very, very good. Well, the benefit of that is that I think our responsibility in today's world, I've felt this way for a long time. In fact, I wrote a course that was called How to Become an Impactful Influencer in Our World. And there's a lot of techniques, there's a lot of things to do, but I think we really have the responsibility to make a difference. And, when we see what families, I think right now with this coronavirus and all that we're facing right now, many families are spending more time with their children, that probably time they've never spent with their children.
Right.
People are together for all the various reasons. And then I think to the times I've gone to restaurants and seen entire families sitting around the table texting and not talking. And the storytelling that is not getting passed from generation to generation. And it's a time that we need to pull those storytelling and sharing our wisdom even more than ever before. Because I think for the first time, many people, is the first time they've ever taken the time to start exploring what else is out there.
Right, right. 25 years ago, I took over as a national sales manager for an equipment company. And I realized that we were kind of in the mid-range point for total number of sales. And there was only one way you're going to get to the top, and that is you're going to have to work to get to the top. Best way to work to get to the top is you write. Isn't a better way to get there. Being published makes all the difference in the world.
It does. Yes.
All right. So I'm speaking at a conference in Rosemead, Minnesota. And a magazine author walks in the back of the room. I recognized him because I actually subscribed to the magazine. He sits down, and when I'm finished making my presentation, he walks up and he said, "That was the clearest 15-minute presentation on that topic I've ever heard in my life. Would you mind writing for my magazine?" Now, that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why I was speaking at that conference, was because I wanted an opportunity to do that. I said, nah, I'll tell you what I will do, though. I'll exchange that for an opportunity to talk about my product.
That's awesome.
We got this. Remember, this is a tiny, tiny niche. There's 13,000 subscribers to that magazine. We got that many leads from that magazine.
Right.
And that was about 25 years ago. I forgot all about it. One day I decide, now that we've moved from the magazine world to the online world, I thought, whatever happened to that? So I Googled it. What else are you going to do?
Yeah. How do you know what happened?
That article pops up. The magazine's been out of business for 22 of the 25 years.
That's incredible.
The company that I wrote that for has been out of business. It was still being circulated on the most authoritative presentation of that particular process ever.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah.
To realize, but there's the door opening possibilities, because not only were you speaking, but you were also published.
You have to put those two things together.
Mm-hmm.
If the only thing that you ever do is speak, it lasts as long as the end of your voice.
That's right. And the advantage of having something to offer them to go home with, an actual, the kind of books that I like. I'm not as much as a Kindle reader, although I do read them, but I like my print book.
Me too.
Because I like to market and I like to highlight the things that really mean something to me, because it's something I reference back to. And it's just something about having a book in hand where that you're actually getting all your valuable information. But it's more than all of that. It's the establishing yourself as an authority in the field that you're in.
It's exactly what happened to us. And we went from being number 4 for total sales to number 1.
Very cool. Very cool.
And all leverage within that.
So we're cutting that a little bit. So using Designrr, which is the whole idea that we want to share with those that are listening, using Designrr has really changed the scene as far as being able to better use our time and also take advantage of tools that maybe we would not have in any other way. And so I meant to have my link here in here for Designrr. I forgot to get it before we started the broadcast. But we want you to understand that the power behind being able to repurpose content and take very little time to do it is the ways that you get your message out in very big ways. And
right.
And use all the tools that are available to us, because those tools can make a difference as to whether you're really serving our world in the best possible way and getting your message out. So I'm thinking I might just you can keep talking. I think I'm going to go find a link to this. And I think I have it. I might even have it up. Let's see. I think I do. Nope, that's not the right one. Keep on talking about a little bit more about Designrr while I'm looking for it.
Then I'll talk about some of the places where we have content.
Okay.
Many of us have content. We have it scattered all over the place. It might be in Google Docs, or it might be in a Word doc file, or it might be, if you're an Apple user, it might be in a Pages file. Any of those 3 can easily be imported into Designrr. The secret to importing into Designrr and doing that effectively is you import it into the draft editor in Designrr rather than importing it directly into the formatter. Because now I looked the other day, I probably have 75 pages in my library of drafts in Designrr. I've very carefully named them so that I now have a easier to access library of content, that I can grab that piece and put it in this book, and I can grab this piece over here and put it in this book, in the same book, and I can take my bio and I can drop it in. The bio is the same in every single book. All of those things are time savers, and they're huge. I wrote a series of things for the CBD industry when that first got launched off the ground. As a matter of fact, even before it got launched off the ground, I was a big advocate and was pushing really hard for legalization of hemp products in the United States. But everything that you wrote had to have an FDA disclaimer with it. Designrr allows you to be able to put that, and then with one mouse click, it goes in each document as I wrote them. And so it was really easy to do that. I had my bio. It was really easy to drop that bio in at the end or at the beginning or wherever I wanted it to be, because I did it once. Mm-hmm. Now with the transcription tool, I took a kid. This is a very personal, near and dear to my heart kind of story. But I took a kid, gave him a phone. Kid was on the journalism department at his high school, but he was autistic. People with autism love to ask questions.
Right.
Sent him down to the coffee shop, sent business owners in. He took my old phone and he interviewed and asked them questions. And then came back to my office. We dumped those into Designrr, transcribed those, and created an amazing document with his interview, asking the questions, and being able to transcribe that and create this amazing thing about the business owners in this little community, this little area that we live in, this community.
That is awesome. And it must have really bolstered his confidence.
He felt like he was the most important person on the planet.
That is
awesome. He was. And to the business owners, he was. And the way they treated him was amazing.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Just things you can do.
Yes. That is so cool. So those we do have some listeners, and they've been in and out as far as it's early in the morning here for many people. But the link is in the chat if you want to grab the link, and I will go back and make sure that we follow up with this interview that is going on. Would love to have another interview where we actually demonstrate.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we'll schedule that, and I'll announce it among my tribe of people that are following. I'll announce that. In the meantime, thank you so much for such a wonderful interview, and for your wisdom, for the things that you're sharing, and your passion to make a difference in our world. Really appreciate it.
I wouldn't be a good sales trainer if I didn't have a slide pitch. You're very nervous. Relax. Somebody said one time,
I think
what's your brand? Your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. My brand is Eric said, because that's what everybody said when I left the room. Well, Eric said, and then I realized that saying wasn't enough. I also had right.
Very beautiful.
That was a different pitch than you expected.
It was very different. Awesome. It's a pleasure to get to meet you, or get to know you a little bit better after our first introduction, and we will have another one coming up. So thank you.
I look forward to it.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you next time.